What is good, my friends? This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel. We are The Fan Upstate rolling on until 7 p.m. today. Can I get an amen? So fired up to be here with you today and a jam-packed show. What else would you expect? 71307 on the text line is where you can get to us, and you can give us a ring at 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-FANFONE. That's 844-326-3663 is the number to get to us here on the most interactive sports radio show anywhere. Coming up on the show today, we'll take you inside the numbers on the NFL draft. We've got our media mock draft at 4 o'clock today. Kind of taking a deep look at the problems surrounding the National Basketball Association. We've got the top 5 at 5. We have Truth Serum, and we have you here on the most interactive sports radio show anywhere. Folks, I came into contact with some you got to be careful today. You got to be careful. Like, I've talked to a number of guys in our business that, are like, I say to them, like, what do you guys do with breaking news? Because the breaking news business doesn't seem to be a good business. Like, what happens whenever you have something that other people don't have? You got a bunch of fans that call you a liar. And then you got a bunch of competitors who like, yeah, you're second rate, blah, blah, blah. And you got to have thick skin for this. So I'll just share with you this. I am hearing that there is reason for concern on Gamecocks left tackle Jalen Nichols, that he could be lost for the season as a result of an injury he suffered in the spring game, Garnet and Black game. I'm hearing that that's how I've chosen to word this, okay? I'm hearing that there is concern that Jalen Nichols could potentially be lost for the season. All right? You say that instead of something like he's done, torn ACL, because it protects you, right? I don't want him to be done for the season. But I'm hearing that there is concern that he potentially could be done for the season. Don't mean to be the bearer of bad tidings, but that word made it to my desk this afternoon. The other side of the coin for the South Carolina Gamecocks, man, oh man, is nothing but positive. Unfreaking believable. The job that Shane Beamer is doing on the commitment front. Today, getting the verbals from Braden Lee, cornerback out of Upper Marlboro, not the cigarette, Maryland. 4 stars, 18th best corner in America. Also, another offensive tackle, same place, Marlboro, Maryland, right? Same high school, Charles Herbert Flowers, Mike Williams, tackle, committed to the Gamecocks. Diesel, there's a possibility that Gamecock, that Clemson fans might want to avert their eyes on this, because I don't know the last time, if ever, there has been a beatdown like this that is going on in real time, probably about 35 to 40% through the cycle. Okay, like in the recruiting cycle, the classes end at about 20 to 25 recruits. Right now, the teams in the top 10 have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 commitments. You could make a point that we're getting close to the halfway mark of the commitment cycle. South Carolina's ranking, 247sports.com, CBS owned, 247sports.com. They're the number 7 class in America. Clemson is number 20. Okay? When was the last time that you witnessed that kind of beatdown that was taking place between these two schools? Ever? Bueller? Fry? Anybody? Right? And I know there's time to go. And I know that it's early. Okay? I understand all of that. But South Carolina isn't just competing with Clemson, isn't just competitive with Clemson. They're beating Clemson. And as we approach the halfway mark of the cycle, South Carolina is beating Clemson badly. And, well, Mark Ryan, wait a minute. I thought you were more on the Clemson side than the South Carolina side. No, I am on the truth side. I am on the I'm not going to blow smoke up your skirt side. I'm going to shoot it to you straight. South Carolina is number 7. Clemson is number 20. These classes are going to have 20 to 25 people in it. Florida State has 11 commits. LSU has 12. We're coming up on the halfway point of the commitment cycle. And the Gamecocks are running roughshod, not only over Clemson, but Diesel. They're running roughshod over the rest of the SEC, largely. They're 3rd right now in the SEC. South Carolina is usually 8th or 9th in recruiting in the SEC. Today, they're 3rd. Long way to go. Tennessee is 9th. Florida is 10th. Those are the next 2 SEC schools in the rundown. But just when you think, okay, like Beamer's gotten his next guys, he's gotten his next guys, and those are going to be the last guys they get for a while. Just as soon as you think that is the case, he pulls another one out, pulls another rabbit out of the hat. It's incredible what he has been able to do. Also today, adding to the mix, Kelvin Hunter, a 4-star safety, one of the top 5 players in the state of South Carolina. All right, so now 10 commitments for South Carolina, 10 commitments for Shane Beamer. And at this point, folks, you have to tip your cap. You just got to tip your cap. Now, by the way, Diesel, I hit the refresh button. They've gone from 7 to 5. You blink, and the Gamecocks are still moving up the ranks. Number 5 class in America to number 20 for Clemson. Folks, Clemson fans, there's this weird vibe with Clemson fans, Diesel, that it's like they take real pride in not letting anybody see that they're sweating. They like, oh, that's funny. That's cute. Let's crack a joke. Us worry about South Carolina. That's hilarious, Mark Ryan. Just trying to get clicks, trying to get ratings. They're 5th. They're top 5. You're barely top 20 right now. Is it time to panic? No. Is it time to acknowledge and tip your cap to what the hell Shane Beamer's got going on? Yeah, it is.
Well, to this point, we had Jeremy Johnson on yesterday, national recruiting writer for On3 Sports, and I asked him, is Dabo Swinney's family first message still hitting with today's recruits? And he said, well, yeah, it's hitting with the kind of recruits that Clemson wants, but Clemson doesn't offer recruits who they don't feel are their kind of guy. Like they won't offer a guy that they think that message is not going to really resonate with. And, it's funny, every time you bring these things up, even when you tell people what they want to hear, which is, yes, that message is still hitting, they freak out and lose their minds. And I think, Mark, now that we have it completed, now that we have it in the books and we have permission to use this sounder because it borders on some things that the FCC wouldn't really like, we have our first 5-alarm fan with the sound effect.
I don't want anything smoky.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Fire!
Okay, it's happening. Say go!
Serious question, asks Brett Powell on Facebook. How do these clowns have a job? This type of journalism is so pathetic that my 15-year-old could do a better job. And I mean that 100%. To which I replied, Brett.
What was this about, Diesel, first?
This was about Dabo Swinney, what I literally just said about Dabo Swinney's message resonating with recruits. Brett, and to which I said, Brett, don't sprain your wrist clutching those pearls. We asked the questions that you were all thinking and the conversations that you were having in the shadows. And if you're a Clemson fan, you got the answer that you wanted to hear, which is the family first message still works, and you're mad. Rub some dirt on it, pal. That is our new sound effect for whenever we have what we call 5-alarm fans, people who freak out, lose their minds on us, on the air, or in the comment sections of our social media channels.
As this thing is as adapting, as adjusting and moving forward, you realize that South Carolina is blazing a new trail.
And you realize that Clemson fans are real bent about this. They won't say it. They won't admit it. You can't ever give up an inch of ground. Like it's like World War I between South Carolina and Clemson fans. You know, there's a no man's land in the middle. There's a trench here and a trench here. And you don't come out of your trenches and you don't give up an inch.
Folks, let's open with this question to you at 844-FAN phone. That's 844-326-3663. What would it have to take, okay, what would be required for there to be a true changing of the guard in this state? All right? Now, you and I know that South Carolina beat Clemson the last football season, okay? I don't believe that just winning one football game puts South Carolina ahead of Clemson. But every single data point that you get in the win column helps you. And you better believe that a recruiting win counts as a win. There's a smart Gamecock fan who's been around here since far before I've been. And I would ask you guys, when is the last time that South Carolina beat Clemson in recruiting? When was the last time that happened? Seriously. Was it 10 years ago? Was it 15 years ago? It hasn't been since I've been here, right? And you are blazing new ground now if you are a Gamecock fan. And it is exciting, and it creates really interesting content for us because it's fresh, because it's new, because it's adding juice to the rivalry. You know, I told you a week ago we were going over the top 25 rivalries in college football, a list that came out, and Clemson, South Carolina wasn't in the top 15. That's not Clemson's fault. That's South Carolina's fault. South Carolina hasn't been good. When one team stinks, the rivalry suffers. Guess what just gave this rivalry, the Palmetto rivalry, the little blue pill? Shane Beamer. Oh, Mark Ryan, I thought that you and Shane Beamer didn't like one another. Guys, I cover football. I don't spend a lot of time in my life worrying about this guy was mad at me. Is he still mad at me? Does he still not like me? Okay? I don't spend a lot of time thinking about that. We praise the good. We criticize the bad. That's what we do. That's who we are as a brand, as a show. Okay? What is the criteria for South Carolina overtaking Clemson? What is it? How long would it take? Certainly, if South Carolina was able to win 3 games in a row in this rivalry, they would have overtaken Clemson, right? I would dispute you, even though South Carolina has the belt right now, that they've overtaken Clemson as a program after one win by a single point. So what is the criteria to do that? 71307 on the text line is where you can get to us. Diesel, what would you say? The criteria there. Like if South Carolina wins this year, have they overtaken Clemson? I would say, Diesel, one of these two things. 3 wins in a row or 3 wins in a 5-year period. So let's see, they will have played 2 more games about a year and a half from now. They'll play this year's game in November, next year's game next November. If South Carolina wins both, they're the alpha in the States. If that's far-fetched because, look, you haven't beaten Clemson much, then you got about 3.5 years, right, until you play them 5 times. You win 3 games in a 5-game stretch, either 3 in a row or 3 out of 5. You are the new alpha in the States.
Yeah, 1 does not equal dominance. I'm sorry, South Carolina fans, that's not what you want to hear. 1 win after losing 5 in a row, 6 and what was the
7.
7 after 7 in a row. 1 win does not make you kings of the state. 2 wins puts you on the watch list. 3 wins in a row, you are now wearing the crown. You are wearing the daddy pants in the rivalry. I'm not giving it to you in 3 out of 5 unless those, unless you win, you got to win 2 in a row and then maybe they'll, lose 1, win 1. But I think you got to win 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5 makes you the daddy in this rivalry, considering how badly you were under the thumb for 7 straight years. You have to win 4 out of 5 or 3 in a row, and then you get to wear the crown.
Diesel says 3 in a row or 4 out of 5. I say 3 in a row or 3 out of 5. And you wear the crown for the state. And I'll tell you, always be wary of the guy who's dared to dream, okay? Because when you think something is possible, it just might be. And Clemson fans, Gamecocks are daring to dream right now. They had the flicker in the top 5 of these recruiting rankings a couple months ago. Oh, that's cute. It's early. They got a couple early commitments. Here they go. They're falling out of the top 10. What did they fall down to, 11 or 13? Here we are, coming toward the end of April. Top 5 class, coming to the halfway point of the commitment period. Top 5 class for the Gamecocks. We keep wondering, how many other rabbits does Beamer have in his hat? And it keeps plucking these 4 stars out of D.C., these 4 stars out of South Carolina. I really think Dabo underplayed his hand a bit in terms of the talent in the state. Why did that happen? Well, the state has produced, on average, 3 4-star players a year. So Dabo looks at it and he says, okay, I can't win at the highest level just recruiting South Carolina. So I'm going to put my focus regionally and nationally. And the program is good enough where he can recruit regionally and nationally. I don't think Beamer is at the national recruiting stage yet, but he damn sure is establishing the regional footprint. And I think he got one over on Dabo. Maybe he was able to forecast that there was going to be more talent coming out of the state, because this year there are 6 4-star players and Beamer is getting 5 of them. He's getting 5 of them this year. And the other thing, Diesel, is that if you look at where Beamer is putting a fence around, recruiting-wise, his region is clearly seen. He's got a fence around Maryland and D.C., coming down to Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and the tip of Florida. He is looking at that East Coast, not north of D.C., but from D.C. on down. And, brother, he is owning that land. Owning that land. Tiger Pal Rachel tweets in, if you think about it, probably the last time South Carolina out-recruited Clemson was the last time Beamer was in Columbia under Steve Spurrier. Was that the last time South Carolina out-recruited Clemson? Let's go to the phones, and Mountain Gamecock has been hanging patiently. Mountain,
man,
what's good, man?
That would be when Clowney committed to South. And that was when Beamer was, I think he was an assistant then. But, yeah, the out-recruited Clemson was when Clowney committed to South Carolina.
Yeah, Mountain, let's have you call back, and let's get a clearer line here, okay? So I want to get your call, but the connection was bad. All right, 71307 on the text line. Look, the Clemson comebacks here are predictable. Who celebrates a recruiting win in April? Who celebrates a recruiting win in April? Who brags that they've won the belt in April? I'm just saying, folks, give credit for what we haven't seen before. South Carolina is doing something right now with Beamer that we haven't seen before, and it is special. And do you think for 1 second that Beamer isn't going to continue to tell his team, look at how everybody's doubting us. Look at how everyone's crapping on us. Look at the projections for next year. You kidding me? It really is something, ladies and gentlemen. We'll get to your takes. We'll get to your texts. We'll get to your calls. We'll do all that right after this here on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate. Great to have you guys with us. Let's try it again with Mountain Gamecock. Mountain Gamecock, you're on the floor. Maybe the second time will be the charm today, man. What you got?
All right. The last time South Carolina out-recruited Clemson was when Clowney was committed to South Carolina. That's been quite a few years ago. And the thing is that he was talking about what South Carolina needs to do to better Clemson as far as wins and everything. In the modern day, South Carolina won before Clemson had 7 straight games winning against South Carolina. South Carolina won 5 straight, so now it's 6-7. Next year will be, if they win, it'll be 7-7. So one more year after that. Then I see South Carolina overtaking Clemson.
Wow. So what is the official year where that's the case?
The official year. Let's see. So if they win this year, they'll be they'll tie. That would be that 2023, 2024. They've got to win the next two straight years.
So if they win 2 years in a row, they've got it. Diesel and I both agree with that. But Diesel says they've got to get 4 out of 5. I say if you get the majority in a 5-year period, you firmly are the alpha in the state at that particular time.
And I'm not saying alpha. I'm just saying kind of overtaking a little bit. But alpha, yeah, you're right. You're exactly right. And I don't consider Maryland, as far as recruiting, regional. I don't. And South Carolina owns, like you said, owns Maryland. They own the D.C. area, like you said. They've got a 5-star guy that's very high on South Carolina out of the D.C. area, and I think he's a defensive end. And don't be a bit surprised if he doesn't commit. But the next big move, as far as recruiting is concerned, is going to be the transfer portal. South Carolina's going to hit the transfer portal for an offensive lineman and a running back, and they're going to get them. They're going to get what they need.
We will see, man. I'll tell you what, they've got a lot to do. They've got a lot to achieve, a lot to accomplish, and we will see if they're able to do just that. Mountain Gamecock, always really, really good to hear from you, man. Oh, it's awesome to look at the YouTube page and see the YouTube page lighting up. John Edward Kruger wishes us hello. Spur Daddy says Shane Beamer's on straight fire with the recruiting trail. Roger Carper, selective history. Why not just use the whole history? Well, Roger Carper, look, we're trying to establish the criteria here for how Clemson would overtake South Carolina. Okay, what is the criteria for doing that? For being the alpha in the state?
It's so much more fun, Roger, when you look at this in a 10-year window. Because if you're talking about wins that happened back in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, like none of those have any effect on this rivalry now. You're trying to build, and I don't know what the all-time head-to-head record between South Carolina and Clemson is. Notice I said South Carolina and Clemson because South Carolina won the last time, so they get to go first when you mention the rivalry. So I don't know what the all-time record is, but we're talking about the ebbs and flows of this rivalry. I don't want to cement this in a place where, because you bring it up, I assume Clemson has a sizable lead in the all-time rivalry. I want this thing to be able to ebb and flow because it's more entertaining. It's more compelling when this thing ebbs and flows. If you say, well, they'd have to win every year for the next 19 years to make this thing even. So what are we going to press pause on this argument for 19 years and then come back to it? No, dude, that's not fun. That's not entertaining. That's not back and forth banter. Look, you got to look at this from a 10-year window. You got to look at the last decade that affects the way a program feels right now. So that's the way we choose to look at it. I say, given the last 10 years or so in this rivalry, if you're South Carolina, you have to win 3 in a row or 4 out of 5 to firmly knock the crown off Clemson's head. Firmly knock that crown off their head and take it. That's what you got to do for me.
Diesel, we have a 5-alarm trigger warning, not because somebody's mad at us, but because there is a Crazy Ralph sighting on the YouTube page right now. He says, Crazy Ralph here, who is going to coach all these fine young men that are committing to South Carolina right now? No. Yeah, no.
A 5-alarm fan is very specific. A 5-alarm fan is one who loses their minds, who goes all off-road, who starts cursing at us, starts telling us that we should be fired. Those are 5-alarm fans. And we love Crazy Ralph, but he's not a 5-alarm fan.
He's dropped some. He's
want to be a 5-alarm.
Well. Would you say he's had some 5-alarm moments?
Yes, yeah.
That we've got a few of them that we can share with you right here.
Friggin' moron.
Yeah, that might be a 5-alarm moment.
This guy drives me crazy.
Oh, we love the
Just
passion.
get a grip, would you?
We love the passion, my friend. We absolutely love the passion. So on the text line right now, what are you guys saying? Texter says 2009 when Carolina got Lattimore, I think was the last time they beat Clemson in recruiting. There's still no word, a texter says, from the county council on the new stadium for the Triumph or the Liberty. And they built a $60 million office building for themselves.
You know, part of that building is and I don't know about the specifics of that particular structure's deal, but typically when there's a public and private partnership like that, the private entity, in this case it's Whole Foods, because they are buying out a large portion of that building, funds a big portion of the construction of said building. It's for the privilege of being located right here in this prime real estate. They pay for a big chunk of the construction cost. I don't know the specifics of this particular endeavor, but have you guys ever been to the old Greenville County buildings just up the road from where the new one is? They sucked. They were crumbling. They were falling apart. It looked awful. It looked awful. It was time. It was time to replace that structure. And there are those people who will begrudge any dollar being spent on something they personally don't agree with. And, that's life. But hey, I think you're wrong here in this situation.
The soccer mom continues here. They have a deal that requires no new taxes and only uses hospitality funds. Soccer mom and taxpayer. Yeah, by the way, I am bent at taxes right now. Folks, they punish you for getting married. All right? And it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. And Diesel, I don't know if you've experienced this yet. I know you and Ashley don't have kids, but the last few years, filing as a single person, Angela and I, my wife, filing, separate, single, etc., right? We both got $1,300, $1,400 to $2,000 a year back, right? We get married, and as a result of us getting married, she lost her child tax credit and her student loan credit as a result of us getting married. And so we go from each getting $1,300 to $2,000 back to owing the IRS $2,083. Mark, did you file single or joint? Both. $2,083 is what's owed. Like, Our system disincentivizes people getting married. I heard my whole life, oh, you get a tax break if you're married. Tax break if you're married. Sucks. What's the explanation for that? You know? It's like, oh, if you're married, you don't get the child tax credit. Why? Because they assume you have enough money now that you have two incomes? What? It's bonkers to me, man. Absolute bonkers to me. I'm literally like, we had this realization last night, and it's been like burning me up all day. It's been getting me close, Diesel, to 5-alarm level. Really. I hate the IRS right now. Mine were done, but we were doing the whole, like, which is better, the joint, this or that, right? So, yeah, Diesel, there was a misunderstanding, and we actually owe 2,000. We thought we were getting 2,000 because we've always gotten 2,000.
Ashley and I, we don't have kids yet, but we had something kind of, the exact opposite of what you're dealing with. I was getting back, typically I get back anywhere between $600 and $1,000 a year. Like, I don't really get a whole lot back as far as taxes go. And I was set to get right about $1,000 this year. Ashley was going to owe $2,000 until we filed jointly, which then wiped out what she owed. And so we had the exact opposite. But again, we don't have kids. So whatever tax credits were involved with both you and Angela, I don't know.
So you feel like you're getting more?
Well, she's not owing. That's the thing. As a
Wow.
couple, yes, we are getting more, but she would have owed like $2,000.
Wow.
She got a new job. She got some bonuses. She got some, a raise when she got a new job. So, yeah, stinks.
I feel like the person responsible for this, the Wizard of Oz behind the tax screen, Diesel, must have been a Gamecock fan trying to get even with me because it just came out of nowhere. Awful. Really, really bad. On the text line, ladies and gentlemen, 71307 is where you can get to us. We hope that the Triumph and Liberty get their new stadium, man. We are obviously on that. Texter says, Mark, Carolina's 2023 class finished number 16 with 256 points, 24 recruits that included Nick Harbor. This class has 10 recruits already and is top 5 with 192 points already. The sky is the limit with this class. With this buzz Beamer is creating, you are correct in saying Tiger fans are maybe starting to get a few murmurs in their pits of their stomachs. If Carolina lands top 10 classes in 2024 and 2025 and beats Clemson in the next 2 years, beating them 3 in a row, they will have passed Clemson. Let's see here. Bro, I'm married and I get the child tax credits. Yeah, I don't know. Like I love this information. I appreciate it. It's not like they give you room to negotiate. You're not talking to a person. You put in information, it spits out a number to you. And it spit us out a crappy number that was like disincentivizing us getting married to begin with. It's pathetic. Like, we're married, we're doing things the right way. We all got $1,300 to $2,000 back a year before we were married. Now we owe them $2,000. Why? Diesel coming up next. That isn't the only place where Shane Beamer can have a chip on his shoulder. Did you happen to see that ESPN.com released their football power index for 2023? You won't believe what it says about the Gamecocks next. Here on Offsides, we are the Fan Upstate. What's good, everybody? It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 p.m. today. Can I get an amen? Fantastic to have you guys with us. Truly do appreciate you making us part of your day. I'm getting some good tax advice, which we will get to here in just a minute. But have you guys seen the College Football Power Index as it has been released by ESPN? Have you guys seen this? This is absolutely bonkers. And, you know, we have fun with the rivalry, as you guys know, here on this show. I can't believe the level of disrespect that the Gamecocks are getting in this. Now, realize there is not an individual. Well, the people at ESPN make the model. The model, a computer, does not believe the Gamecocks are very good. Where would you say South Carolina was ranked in the SEC when Beamer got there? Probably second to last, right? I remember seeing him 13th and Vandy 14th, and that's where they were. Guess where they are this year in terms of the Football Power Index from ESPN? Second to last in the SEC. ESPN's Football Power Index says the Gamecocks are 13th out of 14 SEC teams, just ahead of Vandy, and below Missouri, Auburn, and Mississippi State. No more Mike Leach at Mississippi State. Folks, you know as well as I do that Gamecock fans and I have had our moments. We've had our moments, right? But there is no way in Hades that with Spencer Rattler, Nick Harbor, Juice Wells, that team is going to be worse than Missouri, Auburn, and Mississippi State this year. I don't think really there's any way they're going to be worse than Florida this year. Florida's not going to be good, and there's going to be a lot of fans maybe here as well. Hey, Mark, how's that Billy Napier hire working out? And Gator fans in Florida are going to be impatient. Florida's roster this year isn't good. And it's not Billy Napier's fault. You know, it's one of those years where the talent isn't there. You got to give him 5 years. You got to give him a chance to build. Do I know Billy Napier's the guy? No, I don't. But I do know, I do know, and I am aware of the fact that he's doing some good things and he needs some time, and recruiting is picking up. New football building open. There's some accountability in the program now that was missing before, right? So I think there are some positives there for sure. Folks, the ESPN FPI ratings say that Alabama is the second best team in America. Georgia's third. LSU is fourth. So the SEC has 2, 3, and 4. Tennessee is next at number 12. Ole Miss is number 16. Florida is 18th, which is hilarious. A&M is 19th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the Football Power Index says the SEC has 7 of the top 19 teams in America. Kentucky is 28th. Arkansas is 30th. Mississippi State is 32nd. Auburn is 39th. Missouri is 40th. South Carolina is 42, and Vanderbilt is 73. They believe that South Carolina not only is not a top 25 team this year, but that they're really, frankly, nowhere close. Opening the year at number 1 is Ohio State. Clemson comes in at number 8. If I'm a Clemson fan, I'm down with that ranking. They say that Clemson projects to win 10.3 games and lose 2.3. They say 60% of the time you're going to go to the conference championship game. 10.3 wins, 2.3 losses. You're fine with that. You're inside the top 10. You have a chance to overachieve. You have a chance to get back to the college football playoff. If I'm a Clemson fan, I'm fine with being there. They say Clemson has a 6.8% chance of winning out. But you go down the list here, and I couldn't believe how far I had to go down to get to where South Carolina is. All right? They've got the Gamecocks behind UCLA, Iowa, Pitt, Syracuse, Minnesota, UCF, Oregon State, Baylor, Texas Tech. They've got South Carolina 42nd in America. In terms of the Gamecocks' wins and losses this year, and this is where I really feel like it's a slap in the face, the Football Power Index says South Carolina's 5-7 this year. Pitchforks, fire and brimstone, 5-alarm fires, you name it, it's right there. 5-7 for the Gamecocks, and they say there's a 48% chance South Carolina makes the bowl. Let's establish again where we're at with South Carolina. Let's establish where we're at with them. 9-3 is the goal. 8-4 is a success, okay, because they would be repeating an 8-4 year, something Muschamp couldn't do. You would have elevated the standard of the program if you could do that in back-to-back years. 7-5 would be a disappointment. 6-6 would be a failure. If all of those are true, what is 5-7? That's what ESPN's FPI says, and ESPN's FPI is wrong. They also say that the Gamecocks have a 0.3% chance of winning their division, a 99.7% chance of not winning the East. A lot of people are saying South Carolina could be a sleeper in the East. Not so much, if that is correct. I don't believe this, by the way. I think the Gamecocks are a top 25 team. I think they're much better than this rating indicates, and I think they're much better heading into the season than the Florida Gators are. Have you seen Florida's quarterback play? If you haven't, please don't watch it. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting some very helpful tax advice on the text line here. A texter says you qualify for the full amount of the child tax credit if you meet all of the eligibility requirements and you make less than $400,000 a year. Well, my income, ladies and gentlemen, my income. Let's talk about my income, shall we? Maybe I do. Maybe I don't. Wouldn't you like to know what I make per year? Yes. I love, so people are wondering, does Mark Ryan make more than $400,000?
He makes enough money that he still has to borrow Grey Poupon.
That's right. So yeah, no, and folks, I'm gonna leave that out there. I'm gonna let you wonder what I make, but we do not qualify for the child tax credit, and I don't know why. I don't fully understand the why behind that. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But I'm getting that from a couple of people. If you did your taxes on your own, Mark Ryan, I believe you made an error. Unless you made more than $400,000, you meet these requirements, then you should have gotten a full child tax credit. I am not a CPA, nor did I stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. But maybe, just maybe, I make more than you think. I'll let you guys believe that, okay? 71307 on the text line is where you can get to us on the show. Coming up next, our media mock draft continues. Daniel Wade, Locked On Chargers, selects potential help for Justin Herbert. That is next, and this is the most interactive sports radio show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate.
We've kind of been in like desperation and kind of playoff mode for about 2 months now. Just we didn't really have much room for error to use hands or whatever because we didn't put us in a position to play. But when you play on Sunday, so you know how you understand assignments and making mistakes.
Big show Memphis tonight looking to take a 2-0 lead over the Grizzlies. The Heat also looking to put the Bucks in the 2-0 hole. Giannis Antetokounmpo questionable for tonight's game with a back injury, and the Nuggets, fresh off a blowout victory, will host the Timberwolves. I'm next to Henry.
The NFL draft is our stuff to try and get our guys ready.
26-7, we're putting on script, trying to get out of the same page.
The Panthers have a big
decision, dissecting the defense, like chess game.
who will go number one. Bryce Young, CJ Strauss, start the motion, get it going. The best draft coverage is here. This is real football now. Live from Twin Peaks in Greenville. Hear it all come together. The NFL draft happens on the Fan Upstate. Streaming on the Odyssey app. Put together game plan.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles, with an auto warranty about to expire, or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost, month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-758-7980 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-758-7980. That's 800-758-7980. What do you have to lose? Call 800-758-7980. Again, 800-758-7980.
I always wanted to learn Spanish, but I never thought I'd have the time. Then I discovered Babbel.
Babbel's lessons are fun. They only take like 10 or 15 minutes, and in 3 weeks, presto, you're starting to speak another language. Like magic.
I love that Babbel's lessons aren't just robots talking. They're voiced by native speakers, so you get the pronunciation just right. And they're designed by real language teachers, so you learn how to have real-world conversations, things you'll actually use.
It's incredible. After using Babbel, I'm ready to start having real conversations in French.
There's all kinds of ways to learn. Use Babbel's podcasts or games or videos. You can even join live classes with a language teacher.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than
Babbel.
Babbel.
Babbel. Babbel. Évidemment. Go to babbel.com to try for free. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It's Rob Brown from the Fan Upstate in York.
Ryan, Twin Peaks is on the clock. You're invited to Draft Day kickoff at Twin Peaks in Greenville, Thursday, April 27th. Doors open at 11 a.m. Stop by for scratch food served by Twin Peaks girls and signature 29-degree beer.
Join us for live shows. Sign up for prizes. Who's going number one? It's the Draft Day kickoff party at Twin Peaks on Woodruff Road.
Fueled by Rise Guys P1 Lager.
Celebrate Greenland's music scene every Thursday night at Piedmont Natural Gas Downtown Alive, presented by Clemson MBA. Join us for a free admission outdoor speed party featuring live music in Noma Square. Piedmont Natural Gas Downtown Alive, Thursday evenings, March 16th through August 31st. Visit TeagleEvents.com for more info.
When people have a craving to explore new and traditional Asian cuisines, they head to P.F. Chang's, where scratch-made dishes come from the 2,000-year-old tradition of raw cooking. P.F. Chang's wanted to explore new possibilities for their website. AmericanEagle.com. AmericanEagle.com re-architected P.F. Chang's website, integrating multiple third-party systems to create a unified digital experience. The results? Improved page.
Hey, Daniel, it's Diesel here from the Fan Upstate. We have you up next.
User's location, intuitive online ordering.
Great. So the way this will go is Mark will introduce you. He'll call you to the podium, and you'll hear the NFL draft jingle like you were actually watching the draft. And then he'll introduce you as the, I think, 21st pick. And then while you're making your pick and explaining why you chose who you chose, you'll hear the NFL draft music underneath you. Oh. All right. Right on. We'll be back here in just about 20 seconds. Stand by.
246 CB Spartan.
This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. Roll it on until 7 p.m. today. Can I get an amen? Well, the fun thing about this segment, the Media Mock Draft, is that we bounce around all over the country. And thus far, and of course I'm jinxing myself, we've never missed a day. We're on our third year of this, and we haven't missed a day of getting a guest. I'm not going to lie to you. There's been some days where it's gotten down to the final hour, and I still didn't have somebody, and something just fell in my lap at the last minute. But the rule is, it's the self-made rule, right, is that I've got to get somebody that covers each team in the NFL to come on the show and make the pick. And, you know, like, you got to get somebody from the market, right? So we've got today his third time joining us. Great dude. His name is Daniel Wade. He is the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast on the Locked On Network. You can follow him on Twitter at Dan Talks Sports and Locked On Chargers, Locked On LAC. He joins us right now on the show. Daniel, always good to catch up with you, my man. What's good?
Very good to be here, Mark. Excited to do this again. One of my favorite yearly traditions.
You know, it's funny, Daniel. Like, you and I, it's like if somebody said, "Do you know Daniel Wade?" I'd have no idea how to answer that, because it's like I talk to him once a year. Every single year, we talk for once a year, but every single year, like clockwork. I appreciate you being willing to come on and make the pick for the Chargers for us. Do you think the level of choke job that they had against the Jaguars is recoverable?
That's a great question. I mean, recoverable, man, 27-0 is going to be something that lives in infamy almost no matter what they do this season, right? Like, it's not something that goes away with a, wild card weekend win this season. It's something that's going to follow them, but I think something that's going to follow Brandon Staley probably more specifically, just especially based on what happens this year. I mean, I think it puts the onus on him, because after that, you have so much work to do. There's so much you have to do to make up for it. You might never lose that sting completely, but you could make it feel a lot better at the very least.
What, did you solely blame Staley for that choke job? Because I don't know, man. I saw Herbert playing really well, and then I saw him not playing very well at all. And I felt like that was a shared responsibility for the choke job between he and the coach.
Yeah, it is shared for sure. I mean, if you're a defensive-minded guru, which is what he was kind of labeled as coming in, you can't blow a 27-0 lead. That being said, there was always flaws with the Chargers offense. If you can't find a way to rush for more than 6 yards for an entire second half, it has to come on the offense a little bit as well. I mean, you can't get out of that scot-free. But think about it like this, Mark. I mean, if Justin Herbert throws 4 interceptions in that game like Trevor Lawrence did, what's the final score of that, right? So, it's not even as if Justin Herbert didn't play well. They missed a field goal in the second half. A lot of different things happened. But I think Joe Lombardi, who's now gone as offensive coordinator, shares some blame. Justin Herbert shares some blame. But ultimately, it comes back on and looks most bad on Brandon Staley.
Daniel Wade joining us, Locked On Chargers. Where does Justin Herbert still need to improve?
That's a great question. I mean, he's done pretty much anything you could ask of any quarterback through 3 seasons. I think for me, the biggest thing with him is he's almost too quick of a processor. And I think, having that kind of superhuman brain power has actually hurt him in some ways, to the extent that when he's going through his progressions, sometimes he doesn't give things enough time to develop. He knows, hey, the right play here is probably the check down in the flat because that's the way the defense is playing us. But sometimes when you get through those progressions so quickly and you default to that so quickly, first of all, it doesn't give the defense time to stretch to give you the most out of whatever play you're trying to throw to Austin Eckler or whoever's catching the football. But you don't see some things that could eventually develop if you give yourself a little bit of time. Maybe somebody frees up on the back end, which I think at least was partially responsible for why the Chargers wasn't as explosive as it should have been. But I also never really thought that him and Joe Lombardi were the best fit coming from a New Orleans offense with Drew Brees, where really the standard was, okay, this is an unguardable offense that can get 7 yards at every time, at every opportunity. But with Justin Herbert, the goal should be more than, okay, hey, let's see how many times we can get 7 yards over and over again.
Much has been made in sports about, and I always say this too, Daniel, give me great or give me bad. Don't give me purgatory. Don't give me mediocre. In that sense, I think Chargers fans have had one of the most difficult runs in all of sports because they're seldom awful and they're seldom great. Throughout history, maybe whether this is accurate or inaccurate, the perception is they're always between 7 and 9 wins every single year. And, what is that like? What's it like living in such a beautiful place, but having such a mediocre franchise to cover?
That's a great question. I mean, I think with the Chargers, I think it's super fair. I mean, I think if you go back, over the last, since 2010, you have 2 10-win seasons in that entire time. One was a 12-win season. One was exactly 10 wins. But that's the best. And there's a lot of 7 and 9s in there, from back then. And there's not a lot of, top 5 picks and things like that. When they have had those picks, they came away with guys like, Joey Bosa, once upon a time. Mike Williams was the 7th overall pick in the Patrick Mahomes draft. But what happens, though, is it puts such an onus on you being able to hit on those first-round picks that you have later on. Like this year, you're picking at 21 with a first-round playoff exit. So obviously it's nice for the franchise making the playoffs, getting the double-digit win season. But you also kept yourself from probably getting one of the premier players in this draft class. So I think when you are in that purgatory, the nice thing is part of the reason is because they have always had a quarterback. And that's one thing that Chargers fans are really spoiled by. I mean, you went from Drew Brees to Phillip Rivers to 1 game of Tyrod Taylor before the lung puncture, and then straight to Justin Herbert. So I think that's part of the reason is you always have a quarterback, so you're never going to be terrible, but you're never going to be good enough or haven't been able to build around those guys good enough to actually get to the promised land.
I've often said, Daniel, that the teams that win the Super Bowl have a very good championship GPA. And I calculate the championship GPA by giving a letter grade, right? A being a 4.0, B being a 3.0, so on and so forth, to owner, GM, coach, and quarterback. Can you and I right now figure out what that GPA would be for the Chargers, given your grades for each of those 4? So can you give me a letter grade for owner, GM, coach, and quarterback right now?
Let's go with the easy one. A for quarterback. That's not the problem. Going to head coach, that's incredibly difficult because you can look at it a couple of different ways. Blew a 27-0 lead, right, obviously, but had the first 10-win season and only the second 10-win season since 2010. So a lot of people, if you're given the injuries the Chargers had to All-Pros, Rashawn Slater, Joey Bosa, Keenan Allen missing half the season, that would be a pretty good mark. But when you have Justin Herbert as your quarterback, it's kind of a double-edged sword because you have big expectations on you. If you're going at a 4.0 kind of GPA there, I would probably give, Brandon Staley, I don't know how you could give him more than a 2 right now, 2 years in. Let's go to Tom Telesco, 10 years on the job, 2 playoff appearances, but has the draft resume of guys like Justin Herbert, Mike Williams, Joey Bosa, Derwin James, Rashawn Slater. A lot of really blue-chip first-round picks by him, but hasn't been able to really fill out the roster, I think, in those last, days 2 and 3 of the draft, which is so important, getting role players, guys who can step in when injuries happen. I'm going to give him a 2 on that scale, too. Ownership, Let's go ahead and go with a 1 there, Mark, especially after the players all came together and rated every franchise based on, how they treat their players, what the conditions are like, the training facilities, things like that. Yes, they have a new training facility on the way in 2024, but they ranked 30th in the NFL and got an F- on how they treat their players' families. So hard to give anything other than a 1 there.
So you're going to give a D then and not an F for the owner?
Let's go F.
Okay.
Let's go 0.
Okay, so the championship GPA is a 2.0 then. That's not great. That's not really good.
That sounds about right. I mean, I think the biggest X factor, I think, is Brandon Staley, just because it's 2 years in. Kind of hard to say, but you're coming off a 27-0 loss. How can you really go any higher than that right now?
Interesting stuff indeed, man. 2.0 championship GPA for the Los Angeles Chargers. It is time for us, Daniel, to do that jam and draft for the Los Angeles Chargers at number 20. I ask for your patience, sir, as I get through this labor of love. With the first overall pick in our media mock draft, the Carolina Panthers selected Bryce Young. Second, Houston, C.J. Stroud. Third, Arizona, Will Anderson. Fourth, Indianapolis, Anthony Richardson. Fifth, Seattle, Jalen Carter. Sixth, Detroit, Tyree Wilson. Seventh, the Raiders, Devon Witherspoon. Eighth, Atlanta, Bijan Robinson. Ninth, Chicago, Paris Johnson. 10th, Philadelphia, Peter Skoronski. 11th, Tennessee, Jackson Smith in Jigba. 12th, USC, Jordan Addison. 13th, Jets, Christian Gonzalez, cornerback. 14th pick, New England Patriots select TCU wide receiver Quentin Johnson, single-handedly beat Michigan. 15th overall selection, Green Bay selects the local kid, Clemson's own Miles Murphy. 16th overall selection, the Commanders take Deontay Banks, corner out of Maryland. Sticking with the corner slide, Pittsburgh, Joey Porter Jr. out of Penn State. 18th overall selection, the Lions, Jim Costa selected Kalijah Kancey, defensive lineman out of Pitt. 19th overall pick, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select tackle from Tennessee, Darnell Wright. And with the 20th overall pick, Bob Candata, on behalf of the Seattle Times, selected quarterback Will Levis out of Kentucky. All of which leads us to the 21st overall selection in our 2023 Offsides Media Mock Draft. And ladies and gentlemen, the pick is in. And with the 21st overall selection in the 2023 Offsides Media Mock Draft, Daniel Wade of the Locked On Chargers podcast and network, representing the Los Angeles Chargers, selects
wide receiver Zay Flowers, Boston College University. This is one I really like, Mark, because I think the board falls really well to them here because they have both options of the top 2 tight ends if they want to go that route. Dalton Kincaid and Michael Mayer both available still. Bijan Robinson not available, which is a Chargers fan favorite for sure. But even if they wanted to go defense, someone like Nolan Smith, an edge rusher, if they want to get back up for Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, he's available too. I ended up going all in with the offense on this one. And this is the reason. Even though you have guys like Keenan Allen and Mike Williams already on the roster, both of those dudes contracted in 2024 are over $30 million. There's a good chance that one of those guys is not on the team in 2024 because of the restructures that they did this offseason. And Zay Flowers brings 2 things to the table that those 2 guys don't provide. Legitimate deep speed, can win at the 3rd level of the field, has low 4.4 speed. The Chargers' fastest wide receiver right now runs in the 4.5. So that really checks that box off for them. And also the ability to create on your own. One of the things I think that really hurt them in that Jacksonville loss, they didn't have anybody that could do anything with the ball in their hands besides Austin Eckler. And you have to get him the ball in certain ways. Zay Flowers can create offense on his own. He can stretch you vertically with the deep threat speed, and he can also stretch you horizontally. Just give him the ball in space and let him go to work. I think when you're paying so much money to guys like Keenan Allen and Mike Williams to be able to find a compliment like this in the draft in the 1st round, I think really rounds out this offense and also gives the message of we have Kellen Moore now with Justin Herbert. We're closer to being a juggernaut offense than we are a juggernaut defense let's see if we can kind of put all our chips in the middle of the table.
By the way, we got a Bolts fan listening. He's texting in and he says, Zay Flowers, the right pick. Perfect pick for the situation if Robinson is gone. We need a wide receiver with good speed. So it sounds like, Daniel Wade, you have one vote to replace Telesco with you. So I think we're moving in the right direction right now, my man. So I like the pick. You're getting Justin Herbert some help. I think that's a very, very positive situation to look at moving forward. I've heard some really, really good things about Zay. It's interesting, this wide receiver class, Daniel, I've heard a lot of different things. I've heard that Jackson Smith and Jigba is the only guy that should get drafted in the first round, only guy with a first-round grade. I've heard that a lot of teams really like Zay Flowers. I heard that Jordan Addison has been unimpressive over the course of the entire draft process as well. What do you think you're getting there, and like how can you evaluate a player thoroughly that didn't play with a great offense in college?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing you get from seeing, I mean, first of all, you are projecting quite a bit, obviously, right? He didn't have the best quarterback play. We can all imagine what it would have been like if he did, because the dude is electric. The start and stop ability that he has, I think, is probably second to none in that wide receiver class as far as this year. And I think with these wide receivers, you can kind of get what you want, right? It just depends what you're looking for. You can kind of find guys that have flaws but might be covered up by the other guys on your roster, which is what I think Zay Flowers brings. I think with him, it's unlikely for the Chargers, considering, at least as far as Tom Telesco, they have a very specific type of wide receiver that they like. They haven't drafted a sub 5'11" wide receiver since 2014. And it was in the 7th round, and the guy didn't end up making the opening day roster, didn't make the final 53 the year he was drafted. So this would be way out of left field for Tom Telesco. But I think with him, you're projecting, hey, listen, you see the electric stuff. The testing numbers checked out. You like to see that he bulked up to about 185 pounds, which might be considered heavy in this draft class because there's so many small receivers in this draft class. But I think with him, what you're looking at and what you're betting on, Mark, is, hey, is he going to go up and win a bunch of contested catches? No. But we have Mike Williams for that. Is he going to be a guy that you can depend on third downs when you have to have it? Maybe not early on. You have Keenan Allen for that. So I think when you're looking at this Chargers offense specifically, you want to be able to cover up what you think the flaws may be with Zay Flowers and really get two elements in your offense that you don't currently have right now. You have Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, not yards after the catch guys. Neither is Josh Palmer. Neither of those guys runs a sub 4.5 40. So even though he comes with kind of the warts that comes along with a 5'9" player, you have other guys in your room that you feel like really can cover those up.
Daniel Wade is his name, runs and operates Locked On Chargers, the Locked On Chargers Network, a fantastic podcast. And it's on every single day of the week. Daniel, great catching up with you again, my man. Let's do it again next year, and let's keep in touch between now and then. I truly do appreciate your kind words and the time.
Yeah, Mark, absolutely. After the Masters, this is the second tradition unlike any other. I'll catch you next year.
There you go. We call it Christmas for adults, ladies and gentlemen, the NFL draft. Speaking of the draft, we'll go inside the numbers of success and failure rates on the NFL draft with some stuff you're going to hear nowhere else. This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark, Ron, and Diesel, and we are the fan of state. Here to tell you about my friends at Smith & James Fine Men's Clothing right here in the upstate of South Carolina. And given that spring football is done and that spring is firmly here, it's a great time to let you know that so is the spring line at Smith & James Fine Men's Clothing. And one thing I love about it is, like so many stores are so specialized. Smith & James, you go in there for anything you need as a guy, and you come out of there looking your absolute best. And I'll tell you, one of the more underrated parts of the store is that, like, you see those guys on TV, the analyst, NFL analyst, and they've got these designer suits on, and you're like, I'll never be able to have one of those. I don't have a stylist. You walk into Smith & James, they are your stylist. They will help you pick out and match the shirts and the ties and the pocket squares, everything that goes with putting together a great look. You got a date coming up? They've got you covered with a nice shirt. You've got a wedding coming up. Shirt, suit, dress pants, etc. How about you got a date on the links with your boys? You're going to play some golf. They've got the nicest golf polos you've seen. It's all at Smith & James Fine Men's Clothing, 222 Trade Street in Greer and on Verde Boulevard in Greenville. You can check them out online at smithandjames.com. Also on Facebook and Instagram at Smith & James. And when you go, please be sure to leave them a review. You can do so on Google or on Yelp. Serving the upstate since 1916, it is Smith & James Fine Men's Clothing.
We had a big download day yesterday.
Oh, yeah?
The question that I asked of Jeremy Johnson was downloaded 265 times.
Oh, great.
And so far for the month, Rob is at 1199. We are at 3,300.
Great.
So we're well past him.
Great, man. Let's get to 5 freaking thousand. We can do it. We can do it. We can do it.
I haven't looked to see where we're at for the year, the date. So
Friday, sunny, 82 for the high. Saturday, showers and 2 thunderstorms, high at 75. Sunday at 72. I'm a meteorologist, radar on the fan upstate. Right now, it's 83.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles, with an auto warranty about to expire, or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to the decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost, month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-758-7980 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-758-7980. That's 800-758-7980. What do you have to lose? Call 800-758-7980. Again, 800-758-7980.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
What if you could do business without busy work? With Ramp, you can. Ramp is the future of finance with smart automation, corporate cards, and spend management. Just imagine, no more expense reports or shuffling wrinkled receipts. No more slogging through invoices or getting surprised by unexpected charges. Just your business's big idea.
You left that team for money. You left that team. Get the F out of here. All right? Get the F out of here. You left that team. You left that team for money. You left that team for a bag of cash. The best programs in college football, Chris, don't do that crap. And so I really and sincerely hope that South Carolina does not bring him back, because it would be akin to your best friend gets left by a girl, leaves them for another guy, and like a little bee, he accepts her, calling back. And by the way, I'm saying the guy is the bee there, not the girl, right? You would respect a friend less if he did that. The same holds true here, Chris. South Carolina wasn't good enough for him. He didn't perform well at South Carolina. And Chris, honestly, if we're looking at what's best for Jordan Burch, what's best for him is to learn the lesson that you don't always get to do what you want. To learn the lesson that, brother, the grass isn't always greener, right? To learn the lesson that money doesn't always buy happiness. So I sincerely hope and pray that Shane Beamer
we're at 34,000 year to date
for the program that he wants.
Coming back.
is Offsides with Mark Ryan on
Upstate.
It's Offsides. Mark Ryan and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate. I appreciate having you guys with us here on the show today.
Man, it's hurting my heart reading all these people commenting and replying to your video that you sent earlier to the Spurs Up show. I would take Nichols Harbor back in a heartbeat. Oh, God.
Oh, you mean Jordan Burch?
Jordan Burch. Sorry,
yeah.
Jordan Burch. Excuse me. It's pathetic.
Yeah, it was on the Spurs Up show today, and we're having that debate. And, that came out yesterday, Diesel. And, Jordan Burch reportedly wants out of Oregon, wants to come back to South Carolina. I say absolutely, positively, hell no to that.
We had a guy that hosted a segment on this show. Mongo did a fantastic job. This segment of the show that he hosted. He's a big time Gamecock fan, saying, "Oh, I feel like he was coerced into going to Oregon." No, Mongo, the word you're looking for is paid. He was paid to come to Oregon. He got the does he have to pay the money back? That's the thing. This would be the best snow job, best con job of all time. If he's at South Carolina, he's not happy with his playing time, with his performance, with his NIL money, but he's still got this hype around him. He's got this big name around him. And then he goes to Oregon, gets all that Nike money, puts it in his bank account, and then says, you know what, I'm out. I want to go back to South Carolina.
We don't know the rules on any of this stuff, you know?
Does he have to pay that back?
What do the contracts look like? If you peace out, do you keep any of the money that you left there for? That's the report. That's the word, folks. And, if I'm Beamer, it would be very hard for me to have the I wish him the best mindset. You know what I mean? You want to get to that point where you truly do wish the best for the kid. But when he's leaving you for a bag and he didn't produce for you, it's more along the lines of don't let the door hit you where the good Lord splits you. That's where it's at, right? And so with Jordan Burch, he leaves you. He underachieved for you. He left for money. Now he wants to come running back. It's not the best thing for your locker room to bring Jordan Burch back. What does that say to the other guys on the team? What does that say to the walk-on that you're about to give a scholarship to because he's busted his hump? Oh, sorry. It's going to go to Jordan Burch now instead. Sorry about that walk-on. What message does it send the guys in the locker room that kept their commitments, right? Hey, it doesn't matter. You guys can go ahead and peace out and leave.
Yeah.
The best programs just don't do that.
And you know what? You truck nuts are probably going to give him money. You're going to give him money. You're going to give him NIL deals for coming back, for leaving you, taking someone else's money, then coming back. You're going to pay him for that too. The hell is wrong with you guys?
71307 on the text line. Let's get to John Kruger in Rock Hill, who is up next. What's good, John?
Good. Sorry about that. Perfect timing. I want to talk about Jordan Burch. So, Mark, here's my thoughts on the whole, rumor situation, because it's not like a definite he'll be accepted back, even if they want to bring him back. I initially thought, if he comes back, great. I'll accept him back, even though he'll quote, as you say, running back, coming back, crawling back is probably a better word than using. I was like, okay, I'll welcome him back because ultimately he's playing for the Gamecocks. I'll probably anybody wearing the garnet and black. But honestly, the more I thought about that whole situation, even if he were to come back, I'm not saying agree with a lot of people, but it's like I'm not sure. Me personally, as a fan who has no involvement in it, I'm not sure I want him back.
Right. And so is it like, to me, here's where I'm at, John. My feeling about Jordan Burch and wanting him back has nothing to do with his production or lack thereof. I want to send a message to my team that your commitment matters, that your commitment means something. He had 3 years at South Carolina. He was considered a top 5 player in the whole recruiting class for the 2020 cycle. And in 3 years at South Carolina, he had a total of 4.5 sacks. Compare that to Will Anderson's 3 years at Alabama, when Will Anderson had 34.5 sacks in 3 years. That was the guy that Jordan Burch was supposed to be. He was supposed to be that Warren Sapp-like force in the middle. And the only thing we saw were very, very intermittent flashes. We never saw anything consistent. So you know what, man? It didn't work out well for you here. You had a lot more high hopes for yourself than the results. You want a fresh start, great. But you do that, the door's closed. And that's the way it should be. There should not be any sloppy seconds out of the transfer portal, you know, in terms of returning to the girl that you brought to the dance. That should never happen, John.
Yeah, I totally agree. I want to get your thoughts on something else, but so Mark, have you seen that Draymond Green has been suspended?
Oh yeah, we absolutely have.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so it came out I think yesterday. As I got to work, Shams I think reported that everyone expected Draymond not to get suspended, and just like fine. I'm like, what the heck is that gonna do? And then of course that and obviously having the suspending him for the next game against the Sacramento Kings. I just want some people out there on social media is like Draymond Green probably didn't deserve to get suspended. I'm like, why not? Anytime a guy like that, especially let's just talk specifically Draymond Green, you stomp on a guy for like what is it, the third or fourth time? I've lost track at this point how many times he stepped on guys, honestly. But it was like, oh, he didn't deserve this suspension. I'm like, well, when he's done it, however many times he's done it, you're not getting the benefit of the doubt. He deserves the suspension. It's one game, and let me say this: if they lose this game to Sacramento, which I don't know when they're playing Sacramento again, let me just say this: Golden State's already in trouble.
Oh, right. Well, they got to beat him. Yeah, they got to beat John. They got to beat him. And hey, buddy, I appreciate the call. We've got to keep it moving. But I appreciate you chiming in. Look, your track record matters, right? It matters. Your resume matters. What you do over the course of your time matters. We all have a reputation in the area that we work. We all have a reputation in our family, right? In the letter announcing the suspension, Adam Silver states that this has a lot to do with Draymond Green's history, right? So if this was somebody with no rap sheet, Diesel, and okay, maybe that looks a little flagrant to me, but we're going to give him a flagrant and we're going to allow him to play because maybe he lost his balance. But with Draymond,
you lose the benefit of the doubt.
With Grayson Allen's punk ass, we know what you're doing because we've seen what you've done.
What was that celebrity show where celebrities got to box one another? Could we see Grayson Allen and Draymond Green?
Wouldn't that be something?
If we can't get that, can we get a celebrity death match with Grayson Allen and Draymond Green?
By the way, that would be the death of Grayson Allen, don't you think?
Yeah, he would not walk out of there.
A very quick death for Grayson Allen there. Let's see here. Let's see what you guys are saying on the text line. Texter says, DJ got to Oregon and Burch saying, heck no, I want out. Yeah, it is crazy. DJ's at Oregon State. Let's see, Mark, you're a religious dude. Your point of not bringing him back, but Jesus would welcome him back. Go Gamecocks, go Bills, and go Braves, so says Believer. I think lessons for young people are very important, right? I think a good lesson here for Jordan Burch is you don't get to do whatever you want. You don't get to play with people's commitment with you. You chose to leave. You know what I mean? Yeah, see, folks, it's again, and I bring this up often because it's something I think about, right? Like, if you were to leave your job, if I was to leave this job, what are the factors that would be on my mind? I would say to myself, I love the people in the upstate. I love living in the upstate. I met my wife in the upstate. I work with people who believe in me. I have a lot of freedom in this job. Is this other potential offer worth giving all that up for? And that's why I come back to the answer. I would only leave if the offer was one that my boss would kick my ass for not accepting, right? Because there's a lot of really, really good here. Really good people in the community, really good people in the company. really good place to live. A lot of good here in the upstate, man. And Jordan Burch had a lot of good. And he left a lot of good. And, you know, somebody leaves you for somebody else and you take them back, you know, what does that say about you? You probably don't think very highly of yourself, right? Let's get to Nelson in Spartanburg, who is up next. Nelson, what's good, brother? You're offsides.
Hey, I want to speak to this power ranking you guys were talking about a while ago. But first, one thing you guys were talking about Spencer Rattler one day last week, his interceptions. I wanted to remind you that the first 7 interceptions, 5 of those bounced off of the receiver's hands or chest. So Rattler threw several stupid interceptions, but like I say, 5 of those were, and probably 1 or 2 more.
Yeah, but Nelson, there's no asterisk. There's no asterisk in the interception column. You can't go through and explain 5, 6, 7 of them over the course of a season away. They are what they are. They're interceptions.
Yeah, but the difference between throwing one to a defensive guy and then hitting your own receiver in the hands and him boxing. Anyway, that's not what I called. I think that power rate.
Is everything? Wait, what is happening behind you, Nelson? We got sirens going on.
What have you done, sir?
It's either I believe that's an ambulance, but anyway, they're gone. I think.
By the way, Nelson, that's what police thought of your Spencer Rattler interception. Okay, that the police were not happy with that take, Nelson.
That's probably true, but that is such a joke. I think if both teams win the games, if they play like they should, I think it's going to come down between Carolina and Tennessee for second place in the East. And if one of those teams should upset Georgia, you know you can dream a little. But I'm trying not to be such a fan, but I really think second place in the East is coming down between Tennessee and Carolina.
Let me ask you this, Nelson. Let me ask you this before you go.
Yes.
We're having a discussion today. What would South Carolina have to do to be considered the alpha program in this state? Diesel and I both agree that if the win streak, it's now 1. If it gets to 3 in a row, you run the state. Or where we differ slightly is I say if South Carolina wins 3 out of 5, they're now the alpha. Diesel says it has to be 4 out of 5. So we both agree 3 in a row gets you there. I say also 3 out of 5. Diesel says 4 out of 5. Do you have – it could be something different, but in your mind, because the Gamecocks are also punking Clemson in the recruiting rankings right now, in your mind, what has to happen for the Gamecocks to be viewed as the alpha here?
I'll tell you what, they're definitely going to have to beat Clemson a lot out of the next 10. I mean, there's no – the last few years with Spurrier just kind of melting the program down and Clemson being the best they've ever been in their history, I don't like it, but you can look at why Carolina lost to them. But over the years, I'm going to tell you what, there's no little brother in the country that has beat up on their big brother in years when they had no chance to win like Clemson has Carolina. I've seen years, 1980, Carolina's a 27-point favorite, ranked number 6 or 7 in the country. Clemson was horrible. And they go out there and throw 3 interceptions for touchdowns and get beat. I mean, over the years, Carolina's had a history of doing that with Clemson. So they're definitely going to have to – I'd say they need to win 7 out of the next 10. But they definitely need to win 3 or 4 or 5 in a row. Oh, yes. I mean, people in this state, we think of Clemson as being the little dinky school up over there on the state line anyway. I tell you what, when I was in high school, I didn't even know a Clemson fan. There were some people that thought Clemson was actually sitting over in Georgia. So I'm not going to, as much as I hate Clemson, Dabo, like I said, he may be the best coach in the country. For him to do what he's done at Clemson is so far beyond the possibility that, I have to begrudgingly give him quite a bit of respect. I actually like Dabo personally. I think he's a nice guy, but yeah, Carolina definitely needs to win 7 out of the next 10 to start to right that ship.
Great.
There's just no excuse for some of the losses over the years.
Great to hear from you, bud. Nelson, thanks so much for the call.
We've got Crazy Ralph on Facebook says Jordan Burch's production is worthy of a second chance at Newberry College.
Oh,
yeah, I think the nature of the wins really matters. You know, the sequence that they come in. You say 3 out of 5, Mark, but what if it's what if they trade every other win for the next 4 years? That would be 3 out of 5. But if you're trading wins back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, are you really running the state?
That's fair.
No. I think the score matters. And it's not individual game scores that matter. It's are you winning big or are you not? Are you winning in close games at the very end? Are you squeaking by? I think all of these things matter. You know, there's so much information that goes into winning this thing and taking over the state. But you know, if one team is winning by 30 and the other team is winning by 5, then all right, well, who's being more dominant in the years that they win? That absolutely matters. So the only way to get over that for me is to unequivocally take the 4 out of 5 as opposed to 3 out of 5, to where it shows me year in and year out you are a better football team.
That's the question to you. What would it take? Because South Carolina has the win over Clemson. I was wondering for quite some time if I was even going to see a Gamecock win over Clemson in my time here. That's been answered emphatically. Have you seen the recruiting rankings? Gamecocks add 3 welcome homes today. Not 1, not 2, but 3. They're now number 5 in the 24/7 Sports recruiting rankings. They get the commitment from Mike Williams, tackle from Upper Marlboro, Maryland. They get the commitment today from Braden Lee, Upper Marlboro, Maryland.
Marlboro.
And they get one of the top players in the state, Kelvin Hunter, state 4-star safety, 16th best safety in America out of West Florence High School. He's killing it. The Gamecocks have a top 5 recruiting class right now. Clemson has a top 20 recruiting class right now.
Mark, the only town name that's more difficult to say than West Marlboro is the town name that I just sent you as a message. I want you to read this town name to me, and it's local. It's just outside of Charlotte.
The correct answer, Diesel, is Sugarton. No, that's not it? No, that's not what you sent?
How would you pronounce the name of this town that I just sent you?
Oh, gosh.
It's a toughie.
Alba Marie. That's right, isn't it?
You think I put a capital I in the middle of that word? That's an L.
Oh, my gosh.
Alba Marie?
Albemarle?
Albemarle.
You know, Diesel, I still don't know. I still don't know how to say the name. Is it Berea?
Berea.
So it's like diarrhea. It rhymes with diarrhea. Berea. And that's, honestly, folks, no offense to the folks in Berea, that's how I had to remember it. I was like, oh, it's like diarrhea. Because I kept calling it Berea. And Cole would correct me every single time.
You know, what's funny is I drive through Berea. I don't go through Berea much, but I think Berea is an area of Greenville that is going to explode here over the next 10 to 15 years or so. It used to be. Now, White Horse Road, which is the side of, it's the same road, White Horse Road goes through Berea also, used to be a very, it was Woodruff Road before Woodruff Road, but that was also like 25 years ago. And then Woodruff Road started coming on, and it took so much business and traffic away, and White Horse Road became much, much more industrial. Now, if you keep going down White Horse Road towards the mountains, you're going to get into Berea. But the thing is, once you get to Berea, everything is 4 to 5 lane roads, wide roads, big sidewalks, just ripe to be built, ripe to be developed. The only problem is it's not an easy way to get there. Like, the only way to get there is to go down 95, get on White Horse Road, and drive 7 or 8 miles down this 4-lane road, driving like 8 miles down Woodruff Road to get to your home, where you work, whatever, in Berea. Greenville needs a loop. You know, we've been talking about how we need this lazy river from Travelers Rest to downtown Greenville. Greenville needs a loop that goes all the way around it. I'm talking like an interstate loop, not a highway that people work off of. I'm talking an actual interstate loop, the same way that Charlotte has got their 385 and 485 loops. And then you could connect that. Man, that area over there would blow up.
By the way, guys, just so you know, I'm not calling Berea diarrhea. I'm just letting you know that that's the only way I could remember it.
Well, there are some people who
I know.
might say
I know.
that Berea is a crappy side of town.
I like
some people. I certainly would never, ever say that.
See, like, folks, do you know how hard it is to work in this era? Because, like, I'll say that, and then somebody will tell folks in Berea, hey, did you hear Mark Ryan called Berea diarrhea? No, I didn't. I said I was mispronouncing it, and I was like, oh, okay, so a way I can remember it is it rhymes with diarrhea. Okay, that's the way I can remember it, because it looks like Berea to
I
me.
really want you to stop saying
I'm
that.
probably digging myself a bigger and bigger hole now, aren't I? Yeah.
Oh, we got the classic Duke football, Duke basketball, Clemson football fan debate going on here. John Kruger says that he is a Duke basketball fan, and I admit that Grayson Allen is dirty. So it makes us think we may need to re-examine this narrative that Clemson football fans become Duke basketball fans, because here is a diehard South Carolina football fan who is claiming in the text right here, it can't be mistaken, it is right there, claiming that he is a Duke basketball fan. We got Spur Daddy saying, John, I thought you were a Gamecock fan. If so, the rules of fandom state you can't pull for Duke basketball and be a Carolina fan too. He goes, are you sure you're not a Clemson fan? Only Clemson fans pull for Clemson football and Duke basketball. And Crazy Ralph is getting a laugh out of your childish word. He likes it.
By the way, that the same conversation is going on the text line, Diesel, where Texter says, how does Believer still have his fan card? He's claiming the Gamecocks, the Bills, and the Braves. Gamecocks and Bills are fine. The rule applies to professional teams. Braves, Bills, and Gamecocks is a serious violation. And Believer, I'm here to collect your fan card. Turn it over. Hand it over right now. Coming up next on the show, folks, should this happen, it'll make me more nervous than just about anything I've ever seen in sports. And so I'm begging it doesn't. That's next. This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel. And we are the Fan Upstate. Folks, Diesel and I are chasing something that we want to let you know about, okay? We set a goal at the beginning of the year, and this will be the only time I say this goal, okay? Unless we hit it, because I don't believe in jinxing it. As a matter of fact, Diesel, should I say it at all? I don't know. We set a goal at the beginning of the year to hit 100,000 downloads of our content for the station for the year. Nobody who's ever worked here has ever come close to that number. That's not to bag on anybody. I'm just being honest with you, right? We're a newer station. We're growing, we're building, etc. You want to get bigger. You want to grow each year. And through 4 months, right, of the year, which is a third of the year, right? At the end of the month, we'll be through a third of the year. We needed to be at 33,000 downloads in order to be on pace for 100,000 for the year. Diesel just told me in the last commercial break, we're at 34,000 downloads. So we are on pace. How can you help us with our download count? You can open the Odyssey app and open any part of the show and just hit play. That counts as a download. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. That counts as a download. You can open up our page on Facebook and Twitter, The Fan Upstate. Click on any of our content from Offsides. That will count as a download. So our goal was 100,000 downloads this year.
When we said it out loud, we thought that's an absurd number.
Yeah, because what did we have last year, Diesel?
65?
We had 65,000.
And that's asking for a 35% increase.
And 65,000 was a record. So it's like when you set the record and then you're like, okay, we want to go from 65 to 100K this year. And then we're on pace to do it through 4 months, through a third of the year. All we can do is ask for your continued support.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you. And when you guys help us set records over here, we never forget it, man.
Yeah.
We never forget it. You're a part of it.
Anytime you see our posts on social media, on Facebook and on Twitter, share those things out. Let people know why you like this show. Talk to people. You know, we have a tendency here to upset the apple cart a little bit.
No.
And people will read the headlines of a podcast that we post and then just be like, oh, I don't like that guy. I don't like those guys. They have silly opinions. Well, like when you realize it's all for entertainment value, but it's also what we believe, then, you know, it's coming from a place of authenticity. Like nobody here says anything they don't believe just to get people to pay attention to it. So, look, even if I find dissenting opinions more entertaining, I don't want to hear somebody regurgitate back to me what I already believe. That's dull. That's called being stuck in an echo chamber, and I don't like that. So I like to hear dissenting opinions, and I like to hear people that can give it to me both ways. You know, don't.
Are we still talking about
hear?
sports radio?
I like to hear people. That's not. You're taking that in a weird context, and I don't like it. But anyway, yeah, just tell your friends about it and give them a hint, a heads up what the vibe of the show is. What'd you say earlier on the show, Mark? You praise where warranted, you criticize where warranted, both sides. And hey, we're probably going to do both of those things in the same show, probably in the same segment. Criticize something South Carolina does, praise something South Carolina does in the same segment. So you got to let them know what the show is all about before you just bombard them with something that is probably going to put them in 5-alarm category.
There you go. Up next, we've got the top 5 at 5, the top 5 biggest sports stories of the day, the top 5 topics we're discussing. The top 5 at 5 is next. Here are the most interactive sports show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. What's good, my friends? This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate rolling on until 7 p.m. today. Can I get an amen? A red letter day if you are a Gamecocks fan. But right now, it is time for us to do that jam. We call it the Top 5 at 5. Bringing the Top 5 at 5 to the YouTube channel today as well. What's good to our fellow YouTubers? If you could follow us on YouTube, we would love that.
Subscribe.
Oh, gosh, that's right.
Tough,
Subscribe.
Man. You can like
follow.
on Facebook, follow on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube.
That's right. Subscribe to us on YouTube. That'd be great. The Fan Upstate on YouTube each and every day. Diesel and I are on YouTube, on the YouTube channel. First couple hours. I think, Diesel, probably the only exception is like they don't get to hear the calls, right? There's no way to patch the calls into them.
They can hear the calls.
They can hear the calls
Yeah.
on there. Really?
Yeah, of course.
How does that work?
Just press one button on the
Really?
on the board there.
And they can hear interviews as well?
Yeah.
Wow. Mind blown emoji. It is time for us to get to the Top 5 at 5. The top 5 biggest sports stories of the day. The top 5 topics, technology, man. The top 5 topics we're discussing. Ladies and gentlemen of the Upstate Offsiders, the Top 5 at 5 starts right now.
What a time to be alive.
And now, the Top 5 at 5.
And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hit it.
5.
You know, folks, I am going to let you know something about Damar Hamlin, and I've got a clip number 3 right here, and his story scares the heck out of me. I don't want to see him play again. To me, him playing again is not heroic. It's not triumph over adversity. It is terrifying. Now, do I believe he should have the right to try to play again? I suppose he should, you know? But it's crazy to me. I'm seeing team doctors and such say some really dumb things lately. For example, today, Tua Tagovailoa said, our doctors told me I'm fine, that you have more of a risk with CTE if you're a position player. You seen how many concussions that guy's taken? What do you mean the doctors have told him you're fine, you're more of a risk for CTE with that?
He's parroting back what he wanted to hear.
It's unfreaking believable. And Damar Hamlin said, look, your heart is fine. You're cleared. You're good to go. Folks, you know, I would not believe for 1 second that impact happened.
What did you just do? What impact did you just have?
I wouldn't believe for 1 second that was completely and totally random and that was a lightning strike event.
People on YouTube are getting a show right now.
They are. They really are. I don't know, guys. How do you feel about Damar Hamlin playing football again? I feel like I'm probably in the minority on this. I feel like many of you probably want to see him try. I am going to be beside myself with anxiety, with grief, with stress, watching him attempt that, because I do believe his heart is probably has a predisposition for that kind of thing happening. And I'm terrified it'll happen again. Then when you hear Damar Hamlin here, he says, I actually died on national TV in front of the entire world.
Not to sound cliche, man, but the wild moment is every day, just being able to wake up and just take deep breaths and live a peaceful life, to have a family, to have people that are around me that love me and that care about me. And for those people to still have me in their lives, you know, they almost lost me. Like I died on national TV in front of the whole world. You know what I mean? That right there is just the biggest blessing of it all, is for me to still have my people and my people still to have me.
Let's continue with Damar's diagnosis of what happened on the field.
So the diagnosis of pretty much what happened to me was basically commotio cordis. It's a direct blow at a specific point in your heartbeat that causes cardiac arrest. And 5 to 7 seconds later, you fall out. And that's pretty much what everyone's seen January 2nd of this year. Commotio cordis is the leading cause of death in youth athletes across all sports. So that's something that I personally will be taking a step in to make a change. And also, with that being said, all the awareness around CPR and the access to AEDs have been lower in that number as well.
Yeah, guys, how do you feel? How do you feel? I don't want to be a curmudgeon. I don't want to be a grumpy old man. He has a right to want to play again, but dude, you got your life back, man. You got your life back. Can't we leave well enough alone? Next up.
4.
Draymond Green suspended after stepping on Domantas Sabonis of the Sacramento Kings after Sabonis grabbed his leg. Draymond stepped on his midsection. But it wasn't only that. After that, he was doing the whole "I can't hear you" to the crowd. He was telling the crowd to be louder. He can't hear them. He was riling up the crowd, which reminded Adam Silver in the NBA of the Malice at the Palace, where the crowd and the fans fought and so on and so forth.
Could have gotten out of control.
Could have really, really, really gotten out of control and gotten out of control fast. So Draymond Green is suspended. The Warriors would never have lost to LeBron James and the Cavaliers had Draymond Green not been suspended. His actions cost them a title. Now his actions have won them 4 titles. Steve Kerr thinks he's the second most valuable Warrior to Steph Curry. And it's hard to argue that point. But when you look at the history here, he had to be suspended. Golden State has to find a way at home to win a must-win game down 0-2 without their enforcer, because nobody has come back from down 3-0 in NBA history. So what do you say? Is the dynasty done for Golden State? I think it's not done, but there's a very faint murmur remaining. They got to win. They got to win tomorrow night without Draymond. Can they do it at home? Next up.
3.
At number 3, how about South Carolina's recruiting? How about what they're doing on the recruiting front? Not 1, not 2, but 3 new commitments today. Mike Williams, offensive tackle, Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Braden Lee, cornerback, same high school, Upper Marlboro, Maryland. 3 stars and 4 stars. And one of the best players in the state, Kelvin Hunter, safety from West Florence High School. From right here. All of those signings, all of those commitments elevate South Carolina to a top 5 class in the country right now. Beamer is in uncharted territory. But not only that, his success is beginning to be something that Clemson fans cannot ignore. If any Clemson fan told me, I'm not concerned, Mark, I'm not concerned about the fact that Beamer's class is 5th and Clemson's is 20th, I wouldn't believe you. When you look at the number of commitments in these classes, we are approaching the halfway mark of commitments. Usually a class has between 20 and 25 players. Right now, the classes for many are about 8, 9, and 10. We're getting to the halfway mark. And South Carolina is blowing Clemson out of the water. If you were to pinpoint one thing that Beamer is doing better than anyone else at South Carolina, recruiting-wise, what is it? What is he doing? What is his sales pitch that other previous coaches were not able to hit on? I'd love to know what you think. Next up.
2.
At number 2 on the show today, we've asked you the following point-blank question. How does South Carolina pass Clemson in the state's hierarchy? What are the criteria for getting them there? They won the football game. They're winning the recruiting battles right now. Is that enough? Diesel and I say no, but here is our criteria. What's yours? Should the Gamecocks beat Clemson 3 games in a row, 3 times in a row, they'd surpass Clemson. I believe if you win 3 games out of 5, you're the alpha in the state. Diesel believes it needs to be 4 out of 5 to be the alpha in the state. But believe you me, ladies and gentlemen, that according to Diesel or I, because we are in April 2023 and 2 more games in the Palmetto rivalry will be played by November 2024, that South Carolina is as close as a year and a half away from potentially being the alpha in this state if they can win 2 more games consecutively. Folks, you got to be blown away at this point by what South Carolina is doing. Last year, they hit the blue chip ratio for the first time. First time in the school's history they ever had 50% of their commits coming up as 4 or 5 stars. What's the blue chip ratio for 2024 looking like? 8 out of 10. 8 4-stars out of 10 total commitments. Next up.
1.
And at number 1 today. Folks, it's early in the year, and we as a show have already had 4 controversies. I know, Mark, get busy. You're slacking. 4 controversies in the first 4 months of the year. What stands out to you about our controversy regarding Steve Wilkes with the Carolina Panthers? We were on the air, and the Carolina Panthers called me and said, Mark, we want to invite you. I love the Carolina Panthers, by the way. I'm wearing a Carolina Panthers throw right now, Carolina Panthers pullover. You can see it on the YouTube screen. Love them. Really grateful for our relationship. They called and said, Mark, we want to invite you to reach out to us before you come out with any scoop. That way we can give you the 411 on the information you have. And I said to Diesel, I appreciate what they're trying to do. That's an attempt to control the narrative. I don't see myself doing that. If I have a scoop, I'm just going to share it with the audience, right? And so the scoop said essentially that Steve Wilkes was not going to get the job with the Carolina Panthers. And I was hearing that he wasn't being considered as seriously as others thought he might be. And that one guy that the Panthers liked was D'Amico Ryans. Well, what happened? Steve Wilkes did not get the job. Carolina requested an interview with D'Amico Ryans and was denied. We have the Shane Beamer controversy, where we had a scoop from inside Carolina's football offices that phone calls had been made to Garrett Riley. The interest was not reciprocated from the South Carolina Gamecocks, and he ends up signing with Clemson. So we have a segment on the show. Clemson gets the guy that South Carolina wanted, and Shane Beamer goes nuclear. Called us all sorts of wordy dirds. That's controversy number 2.
If only we had the 5-alarm fan audio ready at that time.
Yes, sir. Controversy number 3, the Greenville Drive, Diesel. At the Clemson and South Carolina game. Myself, Angela, and Jackson all said, this looks like it's 2/3, 1/3 Clemson here. I know they said it's 50-50 with the tickets, but this doesn't look like 50-50 to us. And I thought we were having a fun discussion on attendance, but the Greenville Drive got all in their feels about that. And I thought that was interesting. I still haven't gotten an explanation for why they got so upset about that. I still don't understand the why behind that. I love the Greenville Drive. I love their stadium. I am absolutely a proponent of the Greenville Drive. I simply shared what my eyes were seeing, and that was that you may have had an intention of giving 50% to Clemson, 50% to South Carolina, but there's a lot of Gamecock fans that sold them tickets to Clemson fans because it's not 50-50 in here. The Greenville Drive did not like me sharing that very much. And then controversy number 4. From this past Saturday, a very, very candid conversation on the field of the orange and white game at Clemson, in which Clemson Athletic Director Graham Neff said to me, Mark, I appreciate you being here. I want you to know we hear you and we hear your audience regarding Brad Brownell. He came back because we felt like this was a tournament team. This should have been a tournament team. There's never been a year where a third-place ACC team didn't make the tournament. But then we lost to Morehead State. the loss to Morehead State was unacceptable. It popped the balloon of our positive energy. And he said, if we don't take the next step next season, we are making a change. I posted that. It was as though I said something bad about some Clemson fans' mamas. They did not like me sharing that at all. Breaking news is a funny beast, man. People do not like when you have breaking news. Fans don't like when you have breaking news. Media is jealous when you have breaking news, and so they like to slander you. You got to have thick skin to come out with something that people don't know.
I seem to think like people say to themselves, well, I'm closer to this program than the person who broke this news. Why did I not get to have this conversation with Graham Neff? Why didn't he come and talk to me about that? Well, number one, probably doesn't know who you are because he doesn't read your crappy blog. Number two, he's not getting all this heat and conversation generated and then entering his email inbox, his text messages saying, hey, here's what they're talking about on the radio up there in Greenville. You know, there's a point where your irrelevancy puts you farther and farther and farther away from the crown. And kicking up a dust storm moves us closer to it. They're jealous that they didn't get that information first.
I get that, Diesel, and you're right. But it's like to try to tear somebody down because you didn't get that information first.
It's pathetic.
It's not my fault that we had the conversation. You know, it's not my fault. By the way, Diesel, I can confirm that Clemson's softball coach, Coach Rittman, will be joining the show tomorrow sometime between 5 and 5:30. Boy, Diesel, if I made something up on the field at Clemson, do you think we would be having their softball coach on the show tomorrow?
Top 10 ranked sitting head coach would not come on the show. Athletic director would not allow them on the show if we were spreading lies.
That's exactly right. And those are today's top 5 at 5. Now it's your chance to chime in, which you can do at 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-FANFONE. That's 844-326-3663. The text line is there for you. At 71307, just start your text with the word fan, and away you go. You can get to us on Facebook and on Twitter, at The Fan Upstate, at Diesel on Radio, at Mark Ryan on Air. That's at MARC Ryan on Air. And finally, email. You guys can all email the show. Mark Ryan, that is MARC Ryan at thefanupstate.com. All the different ways you can get in touch with us here on the most interactive sports radio show anywhere. To those of you watching us on YouTube, thank you so much for always checking us out, man. We appreciate it. The comments on this page are growing by the day. It is awesome to see. What are you guys learning about the show, taking it in visually, that you didn't already know? Okay, outside of how handsome Diesel and I are, okay, what are you learning about watching the show visually that you didn't know previously? Coming up next, the NBA should be very concerned about this. It's Offsides.
It's been fun today. YouTube.
Hey, Kevin Hines.
Killed it in the comments section. We love you for it.
Kevin Hines. Can you feel the love tonight? Appreciate you guys. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you, guys. And again, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Keep an eye out because we're going to be posting content later on this evening and tomorrow as we sort of chop this show up. We put it out there as standalone videos. So, again, thanks for watching the show today.